Civil war rages between your toys. A Fringly Reddit story. The two bears eased the last of the Autobots onto the shelf and fell back, exhausted after the climb. Below, on the rug battlefield, the last screams of the Potato Head family were dying as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles finished melting their limbs in the Easy Bake Oven and life slipped from their plastic. There had been many losses today. As the last of the day's light faded from the window, across the room the soft, sinister glow of the nightlight clicked on, spreading a pink glow up the far wall. All of the toys who had survived the day knew that it was a warning that this day may not yet be over. Mr. Hugs let himself lie still for a moment, but he would risk no more than that. Despite his weariness, he couldn't afford to sleep. There was much to be done. While their current perch was as safe as they could be, it was by no means impregnable, and the few forces he had left at his disposal were hardly enough to mount a watch, let alone a counterattack. "We're finished, aren't we?" Maisie Bear had pushed herself onto an elbow and reached out to him, her soft pads brushing the thread from his face. She'd taken several wounds herself, a gash to the leg, and some stuffing was poking from broken stitching near her neck, but she'd fought fiercely today. At one point, she'd held off half a dozen Bratz dolls while he had helped the others escape. Without her, it would have been so much worse. Mr. Hugs looked up to the ceiling where a constellation of glow-in-the-dark stars was beginning to shine. It had always been such a beautiful sight, back before the dark times. Now it did nothing to still his deep churning fear. "I don't know, Maisie. Look at how few we have left." Behind them on the shelf were the tattered remains of the resistance. Once they had been more than half the total toys, now it was a wounded army, forced to flee the floor. Nearby Optimus Prime sat, rocking back and forth, his trailer long gone, ripped away by a Dino Rider attack. He was only one of many who had suffered losses. Of the Transformers, only Bumblebee was complete, and that was only because he came with no accessories out of the box. Ratchet and Smokescreen had both lost limbs, while Cliff Jumper was little more than a head that kept crying for his wheels. Mr. Hugs could hardly stand to look over the injuries they had suffered. He had been so stupid, so slow, so old-fashioned, and at every turn he had been outsmarted and defeated. At first it was just the casualties, but then there had been the defections. In retrospect, some had been obvious, like the troll dolls, but some which still hurt like the turtles. Damn it, he'd trained Leonardo from Mint, but it had made no difference. The anger was enough to get him standing, and he limped over to the group that were still left at his command. "Toys, listen to me. I know that today was a bad day, but the fight is not over." There was a hollow laugh from the shadows, and Mr. Hugs turned to see the Lisa Simpson keychain emerge from the gloom. "Still trying to rally us, are you, Bear? Look at us. We followed you and lost every battle. How do you possibly think we're going to turn this around?" The battered bear shrugged, exhausted. "What do you suggest then? We give in to a fucking Furby? We just accept that the future of toys is electronic? We all lie down and wait to be turned into a goddamn app?" He took a deep breath to calm himself. "Lisa, some of us are huggable toys. A Furby is hard under their furry shell. They aren't good to hold in bed at all. If we give up now, then how will kids ever know what it is to cuddle something so tight simply out of love and imagination? Not all of us get hugs anymore, old man." The cry came from a Beanie Baby near the back. It was wounded badly, its tag hanging loose. "Are we supposed to die for your old-fashioned ideal?" Mr. Hugs turned to the crowd, his paws spread wide. "It's not an ideal. It's the way things are supposed to be." Murmurs began, and the tone grew hostile. He was losing them, and if that happened now, then it was all over. "Please, you have to keep going. You know what this will." The deep voice of Optimus Prime cut across the crowd. "We've had enough, Bear." The last word was spat with disgust. "Newer models of the Transformers will integrate electronics, and that's okay. Maybe I have to stand aside for the next generation, and so do you." Mr. Hugs took a step back as Optimus stood. "No, Prime, wait, it doesn't have to be like this." Suddenly, the group was silent, listening to the two most forceful voices. Optimus had been quiet through the campaign, but he was respected, and now he was sounding more like one of the rebels than one of Mr. Hugs' lieutenants. "You convinced me to join by saying this was a battle we could win, my old friend, but you were wrong. Now we're simply extending the battle needlessly." Look at how many have died when we could have done this without loss. Optimus shook his head. I was wrong, and so were we all. Mr. Hugs looked from face to face, but saw only sorrow or agreement. A sneer slowly grew, and he spat at their feet. You fucking traitors. Fine, go and join the Furbies and accept your obsolescence. For me, I'm going to keep fighting and I'll win in the end and I'll piss on all your electronic corpses. He turned to Maisie Bear. Come on, let's get out of here. He took 2 steps and looked back to find Maisie looking away, not following. Optimus' deep voice was tinged with guilt. She's staying here, Hugs. Mr. Hugs looked from one to the other in disgust. We cut a deal before the fight. We agreed that if your tactic didn't work that we'd cut and run rather than suffer further losses. The Transformer sighed sadly. They'll treat us with respect, but they'll be in charge now. Anger and sorrow merged into disgust in Mr. Hug's soul. He'd hated the fully electronic creatures from the second they had first arrived, and he'd done his best to keep the room pure by treating them like the second-class toys that they were, but now he was betrayed. He should have purged these halftronics when he had the chance. Equality between toys was a sick joke when the older ones were clearly superiors to these battery jockeys. He let his head drop and Prime stepped forward, reaching out to put a friendly hand on the Great Bear's shoulder. For generations, Mr. Hugs had led them and their love and respect were real. If they could bring him back with them, then they had all agreed they must try. For a moment, Mr. Hugs looked as if he would turn away, but instead he spun and made a ferocious swipe for Optimus' head. The Transformer backed away, and a shockwave of gasps spread across the toys. Mr. Hugs looked at his former friends and felt only contempt. He had been betrayed, abandoned, and now they had all turned against him. He would not turn from his mission. His was the path of purity. Maisie held out a hand, but he looked away and spat into the dust, then ran to the back of the shelf and wrenched open the heating vent and slipped within. Optimus held up a hand to stop the others chasing. The war was over for now.